Today's journey brings us from New York into the beautiful green mountains and pastures of Vermont. We're excited to share our day with you as we uncover history, covered bridges, tasty treats, and more surprises. Now let's go hit those holiday roads. After spending day 2 in the Hudson River Valley, we ventured north on a beautiful day. We started early for a quick stop at the Empire State Plaza in Capitol Park, a beautiful urban plaza with an iconic photo op in front of the New York State Capitol building. Then it was back on the road for perhaps the most important location in all of American history. Today we're going to visit Saratoga National Historical Park today, the turning point of the American Revolution.
There's a small visitor center here at Saratoga, but it really highlights the impact that this particular battle held for the entirety of the American Revolution, particularly with the implications for foreign aid and foreign conflict worldwide. And there is a map of the area as well as a brief timeline of the entirety of the American Revolution. Here's an auto tour to drive around the battlefield itself. You got a great, wonderful panoramic view right over here of the valley below and the mountains in the distance. Really neat here at Saratoga. Here we are at Bemis Heights. So we got a couple of light artillery cannons here demonstrating the American position of an advancing British army, including with German or Hessian mercenary reinforcements. Now this underbrush obviously wasn't here. Those trees were obviously significantly shorter here a couple hundred years ago, 100 to 250 years ago. But the road coming right down here with the river down in the background would be where the British Army would be coming on down from Canada on down to try to meet down toward Albany and cut the New England the northern colonies away from the southern colonies. And this bottleneck here forced the British into a position to where as long as the Americans can hold these cliffs right on over here, just completely bombard them and force the British into a position inland that they were not able and ready to take. Bemis Heights. When we think about the American Revolution, then we think about Saratoga, and the impact of Saratoga brings France into the war against England, and then it becomes a full-on global conflict between England, France, and other allies across the globe, through India, the Caribbean, and colonization in Africa. This tiny little place in upstate New York has global implications, which ends up dividing British concentration, bringing French aid to America, and truly was the turning point of the American Revolution. Here at Saratoga, we're at the site of the final decisive portions of the battle, and we come across a memorial here that they actually have a replica of it right over there. So if you can't see this, it was actually erected in 1887, so we're now 110 years after the battle. It was erected, and it's honoring the Major General from New York, the most brilliant soldier of the Continental Army is what it says, who was desperately wounded on this spot. And then actually came back without a command, came back and brought a bunch of soldiers through with him to October 7th, a little bit later on, while they were still stationed here in Saratoga, for a decisive battle of the American Revolution, earning himself the rank of Major General. So this would be an honorable individual, deserving of memorial through his great bravery and leadership and dedication after an injury. But the memorial here is just a boot and no name. So who is this individual? Based on the markings that are on here, this is, and the history of who this is. This memorial, 110 years after the fact, is to Benedict Arnold, who eventually would be frustrated by his lack of advance, lack of respect that he deserved, that he deemed that he deserved by fellow generals and by the American government, who would then try to leak plans to the British in his treachery and traitors' motives from the American Revolution to the British. The Boot Monument at Saratoga to Benedict Arnold.
After exploring Saratoga, it was time to have some lunch, so we found the perfect spot to stop and eat a picnic lunch along the way.
Well, when you just cross into Vermont, you come across a red-covered bridge. Beautiful little park over here. Stream, some grass and trees. Welcome to Vermont. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to General John Stark, victor of the Battle of Bennington. There is a monument here in Bennington, Vermont, behind the statue, and this monument is quite tall. Affords you some fantastic views of the Vermont countrysides and the Green Mountains, and you can actually even see out into New Hampshire and New York. John Stark was very pivotal at the Battle of Bennington, leading toward Saratoga, so he met part of General Burgoyne's foraging party out into Vermont. He led the troops along with Colonel Warner of the Green Mountain Boys, coming on over and devastating the German Hessian groups that were foraging out for the British soldiers, drastically weakening Burgoyne's army and helping the American victory at Saratoga by weakening Burgoyne's army here in Vermont. The victor of the Battle of Bennington, taking place actually in what is New York, but here with the monument to him for all the Vermont soldiers and militia who accompanied militia groups from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and the surrounding areas. When in Vermont, covered bridges are everywhere.
While other states have their covered bridges, Vermont has the highest density of covered bridges, the most covered bridges in the smallest amount of space, and there is one right over here that we've come across as an old kissing bridge. Originally erected in 1872, it's been torn down and rebuilt and relocated, but it's right here on the grounds of the Vermont Old Country Store. So we stopped by for a visit. Like any country store, the Vermont Country Store has a plethora of rural and farm-stylized apparel, retro toys, and old-timey candies and gifts. But we stopped in for some Vermont staples, maple treats, and Vermont cheese products.
So north of the Vermont Country Store, we have more of a hometown flair with the Green Mountain Sugar House, famous for their maple creamies, which is really like a soft serve ice cream, but a little different than your basic soft serve ice cream. It's got more of a creamy texture. Take a little lick here, it's melting on me. It definitely has a maple flavor to it. It's a little lighter. It's not overly mapley, and it's creamier, almost like a McDonald's ice cream cone compared to your regular soft serve ice cream. Not entirely, although I don't think that the creamy maker here breaks down as frequently as a McDonald's ice cream machine does. But Green Mountain Sugar House, right off by a beautiful reservoir pond right on over here. Folks can actually hang out right over in the chairs here in gorgeous, beautiful Vermont, surrounded by the Green Mountain.
After enjoying the wonderful creamies, we headed up north and came across quite an interesting sight to behold. Sure, seeing an old Volkswagen Beetle isn't necessarily a fast... yeah. So, apparently I was expecting some corny dad jokes and some puns and funny quirky things, but then apparently I didn't start recording until I started walking back to the vehicle. But this is what we saw, and it was pretty neat. So, check it out if you're in Vermont.
Well, our Vermont day comes to a close. We're spending the evening north of Burlington, Vermont, Colchester, at the Starlight Inn. The Starlight Inn, each room is themed to the movies. Got a couple of rooms here for our trip. One for Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, and the other one for Bonnie and Clyde. And the Starlight Inn also operates a drive-in movie theater. So if you feel so inclined, feel free and check out a movie showing at 9 o'clock by staying at the Starlight Inn and the Starlight Drive-In. As I mentioned earlier, here by the Starlight Inn, they also operate a drive-in movie theater. Inside your rooms, they provide a radio as well as the radio frequencies for you to tune into the various screens. Looks like there are 4 screens here. We happen to have a view of Inside Out 2. I happen to be watching right now. But it's really neat that you can watch a movie from your room. I mean, not all rooms obviously have a good view for a particular screen or screen of your choice. I think you can get a guest rate if you do drive on over to the actual field. They have concession stands and all that sort of thing as well. But really neat to be able to watch a movie free from your room if you're so able to at the Starlight Inn, Colchester, Vermont. Really cool.
No, we'll listen to Special Friend.
Yeah, let's listen to this.
Because we can.